all I can say is that we didn't think we'd be here making this movie, releasing it. That's for sure. I didn't. So, I just, I'm happy to talk with the fans anytime they want about, about the universe. And yeah.
Hey everybody, it's Hannah Saulic, the head of video here at CinemaBlend, with Sean O'Connell, our managing editor and author of the Release the Snyder Cut book, and we're here to talk about the Restore the Snyderverse campaign that has been taking over since Zack Snyder's Justice League was released.
Yes, a hashtag that I did not start. I thought that I did.
I saw my mistake.
Thought I did, because I said it pretty early. I said it back in, I think it was like August of 2020.
I do remember that.
Yeah, but no, someone beat me to it. So I very quickly got called out on that. So I'm not trying to take anyone's credit.
Well,
that's
okay.
not what I'm trying to.
You're still part of the movement. That's what matters.
Hate is useless.
So let's just start by defining what Restore the Snyderverse actually is, because I think there's a bit of confusion about people thinking that Zack Snyder fans just want, Warner Brothers to completely dump all of its current DC projects, but that is not the case. That is not what Restore the Snyderverse means.
Well, listen, some people probably do want that and would like to just see Zack's vision as being the future of the DC properties. But, with the idea of the multiverse, they're making an argument that you could have both. You could have the DC films that are currently going into theaters, and you can also have Zack continue his story.
How about that?
This is something that we've really talked about a lot leading up to the fact that the Snyder Cut was going to have a teasy ending, that there were going to be cliffhangers that potentially are not going to be able to be explored. And Zack has discussed different ways that he could do it. He's talked about having meetings with Jim Lee to do graphic novels that continue his story, because again, this is part 3 of a 5-arc storyline that he wanted to do. So we know that he has more story to tell. And in other interviews, he has talked about, like, here's where I would have gone with the story, and this is what would have happened with Superman, and this is what the nightmare sequence means. So he absolutely has more stories that he would like to tell. But the idea of Restore the Snyderverse, I think, also just means like a return to the tone of what these movies are. Like, this is what Warner Brothers pivoted away from when they shifted gears after Batman vs. Superman, and they wanted to get closer to what's currently occupying theaters right now, whether it be Shazam 2, Birds of Prey, movies like that. Now that people are seeing Zack's restored vision of Justice League, they're like, no, we want these sort of epic, longer form, mythological versions of these DC characters. And so I think that the idea of Restore the Snyderverse is also just a return to the feel of these types of movies, because Zack is doing it differently than other people.
Yeah, because part of Restore the Snyderverse includes like Ben Affleck's Batman movie.
Yeah.
Where Zack wouldn't necessarily direct that, but it's still kind of just his vision returning. And a lot of people, I want to point out too, they want specifically Restore the Snyderverse on HBO Max. A lot of people are pretty much done with Warner Brothers from what I've seen, which I think is a great idea, because obviously Zack Snyder's Justice League was broken up into 7 chapters. Very easily could have been 7 episodes of television that would have been phenomenal. And I think, I've said this on Twitter, but I think a Nightmare Injustice continuation of what we saw from Zack Snyder's Justice League 2, but like a limited series instead of a long movie, would be like perfect for HBO Max.
And also, how different is this from, like, let's use Game of Thrones as an example. Like, when you invested in a show of that size and scope, I mean, listen, I've been the one saying how difficult it is to get actors' contracts together and invest in a production of this size. But Game of Thrones would be the perfect example of something that juggled a massive cast, and a huge shooting schedule and had a huge budget, and it was a big hit for HBO. So it's very possible to do these investments and to double down on a production of this size. So yeah, I think it does make sense to put it on HBO. And Zack seems, while I might have argued beforehand that Zack was very much a theatrical guy, with him so far, allowing Snyder Cut to go to HBO Max and next partnering with Netflix shows that he's kind of open to the streaming game and wouldn't mind pursuing that.
Yeah, and I think he shot all the additional photography for Zack Snyder's Justice League on digital. I think I learned that in your RestoreTheSnyderVerse movie.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And so, yeah, I don't know if that's his preferred method of
Probably
going forward.
not.
If he was going to do more Justice League, I think he'd want to do it on film, but we shall see how that plays out.
Okay, but I mean, we have to try.
Don't we? We have to try. What do we have to lose?
So let's kind of pivot a little bit to talk about what does Zack seem to want?
There's no us without him.
What's kind of the message from Zack that you've seen?
It has been supportive, from what I've seen. And I'm sort of tiptoeing into this because early on when I kind of wrote, like, maybe it's time for everybody to move on.
I want you to give all that up.
You know, like the victory was the Snyder Cut. And let Zack go someplace where he's supported, right? Because clearly Warner Brothers doesn't buy into his vision.
Which is a good point. I will say when I first read that, I was like, Sean.
Please don't ever say that to me again.
And then I was like, oh yeah, why would he want to continue to work with the studio who very clearly does not support him or his vision? Well,
the analogy I was making to it, Hannah, and I'm sure you can kind of understand this. We've all been in a situation where, like, a really close friend of ours is in a relationship that is really bad for them, right?
Yes.
And they break up and they get back together and they break up and get back together. And from the outside looking in, you say to them, like, you guys do not belong together. Like,
No.
That shit crazy.
sucks right now, right? I totally understand that you're upset with the breakup, but it's best long term for both of you guys if you move on. And I totally understand that people want Zack to stay with DC and they loved his DC stories, but like Warner Brothers does not. And if they're not going to fully support him, why would he want to stay there?
Yeah.
Talk about a workplace romance gone wrong.
So the initial response, you know, because it's a very short time that we're all sort of judging like what's happening after the Snyder Cut. Like Zack would like a couple of posts, you know, of people saying like, I want more of this. And everyone's like, well, look, he's liking these posts. But like liking his posts means that he's, you know, sitting at home on the couch scrolling through things and being like, yeah, I would do that. Yeah. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean he wants people to pick up the arms and get back to the battle again.
Probably because he didn't think anyone would be that nuts.
Zack was very vague too in the interview that we had with him. I'll cut to a clip from that.
Obviously, you know, over the course of this whole thing, you encourage the release of Snyder Cut family to keep fighting for this version of it. Now that there is a Restore the SnyderVerse campaign, I'm wondering if you have a message for those folks.
Listen, you know, I said, I really appreciate the support. It's unbelievable. And I couldn't, you know, I think it's just a testament in a lot of ways to the way we approach these characters and the way I feel about them. And I think the way I feel about them is similar to the way a lot of the fans feel about them, in the sense that, you know, they take this seriously and they believe in this mythology, and they want, you know, to know, they want to go on that journey. And so, you know, all I can say is that we didn't think we'd be here making this movie, releasing it. That's for sure. I didn't. So, you know, I just, I'm happy to talk with the fans anytime they want about, you know, about the universe. And yeah.
But he has since said a few things on social media that are more solid in terms of like, yes, we can make our voices heard by watching the movie, you know, and
he was telling a lot of people, like, don't cancel your HBO Max subscription. Like, that's not a good way to protest.
Right. So those feel to me like calls to arms.
Ready the Armada. We will use the old ways.
And there's been so many fans who literally have said, like, I will do whatever Zack wants. You know, so if Zack wants us to back off, he just has to say back off. He just has to say that it's over. We got the Snyder Cut and that's all it's going to be. And I've said prior to this multiple times that, like, that's how the Snyder Cut movement could have ended if Zack came out at any point and was like, look, guys, we're not going to do it, sort of thing. So he has the power to do that. And, you know, this is a little bit when the people who are opposed to the idea of the Snyder Cut movement, they do point out exactly how much sway Zack has over this fan base. And so, yeah, I mean, what he says is sort of taken as gospel, and he has the ability to keep them motivated or temper their expectations. And so far, he's been keeping them motivated.
Yeah.
Round two.
Hell yeah.
So let's get into the big question, which is, could it happen? I'm going to read what Warner Media Studios CEO Ann Sarnoff said. God, was that a week ago?
I've been dead inside a long time.
It was the Monday right after the opening weekend,
you're correct.
quote unquote.
Okay, she said, I appreciate that they love Zack's work and we are very thankful for his many contributions to DC. We're just so happy that he could bring his cut of the Justice League to life because that wasn't in the plan until about a year ago. With that
Good,
comes the
Anne, stop right there. No, stop right there, Anne. That was great. Stop there.
Yeah.
Don't continue.
Yeah.
But she continues.
That would have been,
continues.
yeah, she does continue. And I didn't say this at the beginning, but she was asked basically, what do you think about Restore the Snyderverse?
Okay.
And so then she says, with that comes the completion of his trilogy. We're very happy we've done this, but we're very excited about the plans we have for all the multi-dimensional DC characters that are being developed right now.
Huh. That's a fatal blow right there. Like, to steal a Mortal Kombat analogy from another, Warner Brothers project coming, that's a fatality.
But is it? Because, okay, he completed his trilogy of movies, but what about a TV series or a graphic novel or any of these other things?
Sure. What she is essentially saying, so listen, that article being timed to drop on that Monday was, to me,
so when do you think she gave that interview though? Like, do you think that was before opening weekend and people
Yes.
crashed the HBO Max servers?
Absolutely.
So like, we can take this with a grain of salt in a way.
No, I took it to mean that it didn't matter how good the Snyder Cut did.
Oh.
That her mind was made up. Like, that's how I interpreted that. Yes, absolutely, that interview was done in advance. And they were told you have to hold it till Monday. You know, that's what happens when you do these interviews. Quite often you get told, like, you have to hold this information until fill in the blank date. And so that was done in advance, and it didn't matter what the numbers were going to be. It didn't matter if it trended. It didn't matter if the fans blew out the thing. Like, they were done after doing this trilogy. And this was a topic that we discussed. Like, is getting the Snyder Cut all you're going to get out of Warner Brothers? And this is them saying, yes, this is all you're going to get.
Boring.
Now, does that mean things can change? Of course things can change, and this is part of the open-ended conversations that we've always been having in terms of these, what could happen next, because creative teams and executive teams at major studios don't stay around forever. Like, people switch jobs, people leave jobs, people move on. And there's nothing saying that another executive team couldn't come in a year from now, 2 years from now, and look at the slate that they have and say, why the heck aren't we doing follow-ups to Justice League? Like, that's crazy. That was a huge success, and then that could push it forward. It just feels like right now, no matter how much noise is made by the Restore the Snyderverse campaign, the team in place does not want to do it. Now, I don't know about the distinction between Warner Brothers and HBO Max. I don't know if HBO Max has the ability to say, we're going to greenlight something on our own. I don't think they do. I think that they're still under the umbrella, enough under the umbrella of Warner Brothers proper that they don't have the ability to properly greenlight something on their own, but I don't know that for sure.
That'd be interesting too, because I know like the rights of DC belong to Warner Brothers. So I wonder if there's some weird stuff there, like you're saying, where it's like they literally couldn't even if they wanted to.
Well, but even what if they're having conversations, that as a company as a whole, if they're saying, like, look, it's detrimental to the other things that we're trying to do, to continue this DC, like
how is it? Like, that's what I don't understand. It's like you said you wanted a multiverse. This is a multiverse. Like, people will get it. It's going to be okay.
I know we say that, and we both believe it necessarily, but I'm just saying that there could be conversations going on behind the scenes where they're saying, like, the idea of trying to push this forward is confusing because we're trying to do X and Y, especially with main characters. Like, we're trying to mount up Aquaman 2. Do we also want Jason Momoa to be in this completely separate story? Because let's look at the completely separate story. Yes, there's a multiverse. I totally understand that. But James Wan is trying to mount Aquaman 2, and then in Justice League 2, Zack is killing him off. Like... And it's the same actor, it's not like, okay, that's a totally different Aquaman, but like, we understand that because we do this on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
But is Joe Public, who's, watching these movies at home and then like, well, Aquaman's dead. How is he going to be in a sequel? Like, it does create confusion. There is a level of confusion that can exist there.
Yeah. That's interesting. I wonder too if they would want us, like, because we still don't know really what the Flash movie is going to do. That movie seems to be kind of a hot mess right now. But I wonder too if that really truly is opening the multiverse, like if they're kind of waiting to say, like, will audiences get the Flash before we like really actually embrace this multiverse that we're teasing, you know?
Possibly.
If I had $1 for every possibly.
Yeah, it'll make you even more insufferable.
Yeah. Like, I know that the fans really want to have decisions made right now in the moment, you know, and push this forward, but there's a lot of stuff that still has to shake out in terms of how this plays. So
patience. So never say never, I guess, is the takeaway.
Never say never. And I've said this a couple of times in the past week, like, if anything about writing this book has taught me, you know, it's that I can't bet against this movement.
You should not pick a fight with this person.
Like, when they set their sights on a prize, they can really accomplish wonders. And what's interesting is that I do think that there is a big portion of the release of Snyder Cut movement that was in it just to see Justice League, and might back out and say, like, I'm done. I'm not going to keep fighting this fight on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
However, since more people have seen Snyder's Justice League, there's a lot more people who are coming around to, oh man, why aren't we continuing this story? That was great, you know, and like significant people, you know, not the fans at the grassroots level, but people who can actually make some noise at the corporate level and make a difference. So that's a little bit of a game changer also as we move forward.
Well, we can definitely use the help. So, glad you're here.
So before we wrap up and kind of talk about what's next for our YouTube series, I just want to PSA, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but do not spam other movies with Restore the Snyderverse. That is not the way to get momentum for this. That only fuels the toxic fan narrative. And honestly, I just don't think it's needed. We can do Restore the Snyderverse on its own, and that doesn't have to be anti-Godzilla versus Kong or whatever else may come up. I don't know if you have thoughts on that,
I am
John.
agreeing with you 1,000% on this one. And do not spam anti-Asian hate messages that are posted by Warner Brothers Pictures. Like, we have to understand, guys, that there's a time and a place to do this. You know, like, you can have your voice be heard and you can send the message, but you have to be respectful about everything else that's going on. And the other filmmakers that happen to be collaborating with Warner Brothers are not your enemies, essentially. Like, this is not the place to wage this fight. And you know, I think James Gunn bought himself a world of fan goodwill when he just wrote a simple post that was like, I don't know why everyone's attacking Snyder fans. Like, they were really supportive of my Suicide Squad trailer. It's just pretty evident that they want more Snyder stories in addition to what's being done.
The two things can coexist is the main message.
Yes.
We do this together.
It's like, you can do it and still generate positivity for the movement, and
don't let the
show off your
negativity
fandom.
outweigh the positivity, because that's all the story's going to be.
Thank you, Hannah.
All right, so what
Hannah,
are we doing
wait,
next?
No. Hold on, I want to ask you. What's your percentage? Give me a percentage that you think that this happens.
What is this? Like a movie? Or just anything?
The last two movies in his 5-film arc.
50. Like,
50?
Literally could go any way at this point.
You live. You die. Now we're talking.
What if I said if it was just another project that happened to be in the Snyderverse? Like the Ben Affleck Batman movie.
65.
Okay. All right. I think that's fair.
Faith, Alfred. Faith.
A lot of egos that have to be deflated in order to make this happen.
Yeah.
But this
Money
story
talks,
has
that's
seen,
all I'm saying.
Yeah, it really does. This story has seen stranger turns. So
Yes.
we'll be here. What are we doing next?
Well, I was
What are
going to
we doing
say,
next?
so we'll be back if there is any major Restore the Snyderverse news, and we will continue to kind of report on that here and there. But as far as a weekly series goes, it might be time to release the Snyder Cut to a close, as the Snyder Cut has been released.
What a wild ride this has been. And thank you, everybody, for following along with us. We've spent far too much time reading your comments, and most everybody has been really supportive. It's been great. Thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun. I think we learned a whole heck of a lot. I think we covered a lot of ground. We are talking about some other DC related projects and videos that will be on the channel shortly. So keep it here. Hannah and I are also putting together another show that we're going to continue to analyze pop culture and specific topics to get into. We'll have that to reveal somewhat soon. So essentially, we want to make sure that you keep it here on CinemaBlend for all of your pop culture needs. Make sure you hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. We're going to have plenty of great content coming your way soon, especially if you like the two of us together geeking out about really fun things that you guys enjoy. So we'll see you back here on the channel real soon.